The second lives deep in a valley of mist, the doll maker, Donna Beneviento. None of her playmates have ever come back from that dank old estate.
Donna Beneviento is perhaps the most mysterious of all the lords that Ethan Winters will encounter during the events of the game Resident Evil 8 Village. The daughter of the prominent Beneviento family, Donna is the final remaining Beneviento, making her the head of the noble house and an integral member of the Alliance of the Four Lords. Since her youth, Donna has always preferred to keep her distance from others, opting instead to find comfort in her dolls. In particular, a doll named Angie, who would become her face after Mother Miranda would infect her with a Cadou.
My daughters and I shall deliver to you the finest.
Way ugly! I want to see! He's awake!
Mother, shut the fuck up!
What?
The story of Donna Beneviento as we know it begins with the Beneviento family and they're standing in a little village somewhere in Eastern Europe. For generations, the Beneviento name was one that earned respect among the citizens of this isolated village. The family, in association with houses Domitresque, Heisenberg, and Moreau, bringing prosperity to the devout region under the guidance of their leader, Mother Miranda. And it would be into this legacy that a young Donna would be born. But, unfortunately for Donna, despite her birth into such a noteworthy family, her life would be filled with tragedies. The young Beneviento girl would be born with a large scar on her face that caused her to have serious social anxieties. Because of this scar, she would opt to avoid social interaction as often as possible, preferring to stay locked away in her home, filling the need for friends with the dolls that her family would make. Her father even going so far as to create his daughter a very unique doll whom she would call Angie. A doll which would only become more important to the unfortunate young girl as both her father and mother would die shortly after she received it. This loss would of course be quite difficult for the already very lonely young Beneviento, and though she may have already been avoiding social interactions, after her parents' demise, she isolated herself entirely. Citizens of the village would worry for her mental well-being. A young girl who only talked to her dolls was obviously a worrisome situation. But before long, the citizens' worries would be answered by none other than their own leader, Mother Miranda, who would adopt the lonely young girl. And while the citizens of the village rejoiced at this turn of events, behind closed doors, Mother Miranda was not the woman they thought they knew.
Who's there? Stop! Mother Miranda! Hey!
After adopting Donna, Mother Miranda would begin experimenting with the doll-obsessed child, implanting in Donna a creature that Miranda herself had created, a parasite which she called a Cadou. Luckily for Donna, her body bonded with this parasitic creature, granting her extraordinary powers thanks to her favorable affinity. Donna was excited by these new abilities. With the power of the Cadou, she was now able to cause hallucinations in the minds of anyone who inhaled the pollen of a particular type of flower. Donna instructed her gardener to plant the flower on the grave of a deceased relative of hers so that anyone heading to the Beneviento Manor would be susceptible to her control. However, unfortunately for Mother Miranda, Donna wasn't suitable for her needs. Due to the mental scarring of Donna's childhood and the addition of the Cadou, Donna's mind was quite ill. She was wildly mentally underdeveloped and still detested the company of real humans, instead dividing her Cadou and placing it into the many dolls living in the Beneviento manor so as to control them from a distance. Yet, despite her many flaws, this didn't mean that Donna was useless to her. Donna was still a Beneviento, and so she was placed in the House of the Four Lords, a powerful ally should the need ever arise for one.
Don't leave. I can't let you.
You're still alive, huh? You better try to be cool before my friends murder you! Tick-tock! Your life is on the line.
Wait!
Donna Beneviento is one of the strangest and creepiest people that Ethan will encounter during his travels. Her obsession with dolls and desire to mentally destroy her opponents makes her a deeply unsettling person to deal with. Donna takes no qualms with attacking the most sacred things that a person may hold dear, be it a wife that you may have lost or a child that you may be searching for. Donna Beneviento is a very disturbed woman, and with the powers bestowed on her by the Cadou and the loyalties that she has to her adoptive mother, she will do anything in her power to ensure that Ethan doesn't make it back to his precious child.